Summer is basically around the corner, and for today I'm going to share with you 25 different ways that you can create home decor to decorate for summer. You're going to take one of these canvases. Now, I got this at Michael's. I want to say it's maybe like a 24 by 12. I no longer have the measurements on it, so I'm not quite sure the exact measurements, but I got it in a big pack from Michael's. I'm going to start by removing those staples from the back so that I can remove the canvas off the frame, and I just use a flathead screwdriver and some pliers to get all of those staples off of there. And then I'm just going to remove that canvas from the frame, set that to the side because we're not going to need it. Now I'm going to take a couple packs of the wooden stir sticks from Home Depot or Lowe's. You can get them at both places, so it's really up to you on where you want to grab them, but they come in a pack of 10, and you're going to need a total of 18 of these. Now, I'm going to take this onto my frame. I'm just going to put it right in the back. I'm going to butt up the end of the stir stick to one of the sides, and then I'm going to draw a line on the other side so I know where I need to cut this. So I took all my stir sticks out to my miter saw and I cut these down. Now you want these a little bit longer than you want them shorter. So if it's a little bit of a tight fit, that's perfectly fine. You would prefer a tight fit rather than it being a little bit too small. It'll just make things a little bit easier to have them a little bit tighter. So I'm going to take 7 of these stir sticks. I'm going to rough coat paint them white. I wasn't quite sure where I wanted the white stars to be, so I just kind of painted all over. It is going to be painted with blue paint afterwards, but I just did a really rough coat of white paint, and then you're going to paint your white stripe pieces, and you're going to need a total of 5 stir sticks for your white stripes, and I'm just going to paint those all white. You don't really have to worry about painting the back unless you want to. I personally didn't, just for time's sake, but you are going to take 5 of those, paint them white, and then you are going to take 6 of your paint stir sticks and you are going to paint them red. I always prefer to paint on the side that doesn't have the numbers. So the back of the stir sticks, it just is one less thing to worry about those numbers showing through. So all the numbers on the back side of this piece. Now I'm going to set all the paint stir sticks to the side to dry. I'm going to take my stir sticks that are going to be the blue with the stars, and I cut out about an inch size of stars with my Cricut Joy on just some removable vinyl, and I'm just taking those stars and laying them out in a pattern of 2 and then 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 all the way down until I get to the very last stir stick. And I'm going to start by going over each of those vinyl pieces with some white paint. I don't want these to bleed, so I'm going to go over it with 2 coats of white paint to make sure that when I paint over it with my blue color, that it's not going to bleed into my stars. So once that is done, I am going to go over it with some Bunker Hill blue from Dixie Belle, and I just went over it really roughly. This I wanted to look rustic and distressed, so I wasn't worried about getting a full perfect coat. When I went over the stars, I did more of an up and down dabbing motion rather than a back and forth because, again, I'm trying really hard to make sure that this doesn't bleed. So an up and down dabbing motion on the stars, and then I went back and forth on the rest of it. And once I had all of my blue paint on there, before it dried, I just took my weeding tool from Cricut and I went through and removed all of the vinyl stars to reveal my white stars on my pieces. And I didn't have any bleeding, which is awesome. One less step of trying to fix up some stars. So those turned out perfect. Now I'm going to grab my frame that we got in the beginning, and I'm going to take some Waverly Wax and Antique, and I'm just going to go through and stain the entire frame. And I just use this as a normal stain. I brush on the wax and then remove the excess with a paper towel, and I just cover the entire thing with that wax. You could also use a water-based stain. I prefer this because it doesn't have a smell and it dries really fast, but any kind of water-based stain will also do the same thing. Now I went over all of my paint stir sticks with a little bit of this wax and on a chip brush just to give it more of a distressed look. So I took that very first paint stir stick at the very top and I angled it so that the top portion of the stir stick met up with the back of the frame, and then it angled so that the bottom portion of the stir stick met up with the front portion of the frame. And I'm going to add some hot glue on the sides just to reinforce it so it doesn't fall apart. And then I'm going to repeat that pattern with all of my stir sticks all the way down to the bottom of the sign. So I just pushed my stir sticks in there, and I spaced out my stir sticks so that the bottom one was maybe overlapping the top one by just a hair, so that they barely overlapped. And again, you're just going to angle each of your stir sticks so that the bottom of the stir stick will match up with the top of your frame, and then the back of your stir stick will match up with the back of your frame. And you are just going to do the same exact thing all the way down. It does take a couple minutes to try to figure out exactly how to do it, but once you get the hang of it, then it's really easy. And then you're just going to reinforce those sides with some glue. And then once I got to the last two stir sticks, I put them both in at the same time so that I could make sure that there wasn't going to be a huge gap with the last one. So I just put those in. I made sure that the very bottom stir stick only stuck out from the frame by just a hair. And then I messed around with the second to last stir stick, made sure that that one looked even between the bottom and the one above it, and then just reinforced it all with some hot glue. And that's it for this DIY. I'm going to put this out by my door as some outdoor patriotic decor, and I just think that this one looks super cute. If you guys are new to my channel, my name is Liz, and here I do all things DIY decor and crafting. If you guys want to stick around and you enjoy these crafts so far, make sure that you hit that subscribe button so that you guys can see all the future DIYs that I come out with. Also, make sure to hit that little bell so that YouTube notifies you every time I upload. I'm going to take 3 of these wood pieces that you can get from the Dollar Tree. I'm also going to take these cheese boards that I got in a pack of 2 from the Target dollar spot. They were $5. And I'm going to start by painting them with my Dixie Belle chalk paint in sea glass. And I'm just going to give all of them one rough coat, front and back. I didn't try to make this perfect, so you're just going to do one rough coat on the entire front and back of every piece. Once those are all painted and dried, I wanted to make these a little bit more rough and rustic, so I'm going to take a piece of sandpaper and I'm going to go through and sand down all the edges, make it so that natural wood is peeking through on the sides, and I just did that to every piece. Now I'm going to be using one of my Chalk Couture transfers on this, so I wanted to wax all my pieces to make sure that I didn't have any issues. So I'm just taking the wax that you can get from Chalk Couture in their little applicator, and I'm going to wax all the fronts of each of my pieces. I'm going to be using this Farmhouse tile transfer from Chalk Couture. Now, I believe it is sold out at the moment. I was able to snag it on their restock. They do restocks every Thursday, so keep an eye out on Thursdays at 3 p.m. Mountain Standard Time for their restocks, and I'll be crossing my fingers that this one comes back into stock soon because this one is so pretty and I loved using it on this project. So I'm just laying my transfer out, and I am going to have each of my pieces under this all at the same time just to kind of make it easier on me while I'm adding the chalk paste to these pieces. So I just kind of laid all my pieces out where I wanted them to be, and then I'm going to use my chalk paste in white, and I'm just going to do these one by one. So I'm going to add my chalk paste, and then I will remove the piece from the back and then move on to the next piece. And I just did this for all 5 of my pieces. Now, once that is done, I'm going to assemble my toolbox is what I'm going to make, or a little planter. So I'm just going to stick my one on the bottom, and then I'm going to stick my other two wood pieces from the Dollar Tree on top of that bottom piece on the sides. I'm just going to use some hot glue to adhere those together. And then for the side pieces, I'm just going to add some hot glue to those ends and then put my little cheese board on each of those ends. And then for a little bit more stability, I'm just going to take my hot glue gun and run it on the inside on those seams just to make sure that everything is nice and secure and it's not going to break off. Now I'm also going to take a wooden dowel, I believe this is 1/4 of an inch, and I'm going to cut that down to the size that I need it to be, and I'm going to use a water-based stain to stain my dowel. This is a stain that you can't get anymore, so I would just use whatever stain that you love the best. I prefer water-based so that it isn't smelly and that it dries faster. And then I will just add some hot glue and put that between each of those cheese board handles. And then to add some fun florals for the middle, I'm going to take some floral foam from the Dollar Tree. I cut that down into a couple pieces, and then I'm just going to hot glue those down in there. And then I'm going to take some greenery and florals from Michael's. You can use whatever florals you have or wherever your preferred place to buy them at. I personally like Michael's the best. I don't know why. I just feel like their florals are higher quality and they just look so great. And there are so many options. It's one of my favorite things to do is go to Michael's and walk through their floral department because it's so gorgeous. So I just added my greenery first, and then I'm going to go in with some of these white floral, I don't know exactly what these are called, but I thought that they were cute. I just cut them apart, added them into my toolbox, and then I also grabbed some of these other white flowers that I thought were super pretty, and I just cut those each down on their own little stems and then added those into my toolbox last. And that is all you have to do for this DIY. I thought this turned out really, really cute. I love this color right now with the brown handle. I just thought it was so gorgeous. So that is it for this DIY. For this next DIY, I'm going to share with you my May Craft Club kit. If you didn't know, I have a subscription box where every month I send you an exclusive kit sent straight to your door. This month was more of a summer theme, and we had some sunflowers that I think were super cute, so I wanted to share those with you. They are still available till the end of May. If it's past May, they are no longer available, but you can still sign up for our June and future boxes. So for this kit, it is a sunflower with a mason jar on a shiplap background, and I absolutely love it. So I'm going to start by painting the background with my Waverly chalk paint in white. Now I try really hard to stay out of the engravings so that I'm not getting any white paint in there. I want those to be really dark and not filled with paint, so I try to take my time and paint this as best as I can. I decided to leave some of the wood showing through so it looked a little bit more distressed. Then you can move on to your flowers. Now I picked a whole bunch of different shades of yellow, and I went back and forth on a bunch of them, tried to do layering and making my pieces look more dimensional than just one flat color. So I just went back and forth with my paintbrush with a bunch of the different shades and played around with how I wanted it to look. Now you do not have to paint the entire backing of these flowers, especially because it's a layered piece and you'll have an extra piece of wood sitting on top of that. So you can try to just paint each petal individually if you would like, but I just kind of got carried away and pretty much painted the entire thing, but you don't have to do that, just keep that in mind. But again, I just went back and forth with a bunch of different shades of yellow and tried my best to make it more dimensional and make it look like a real flower would. Same thing with the top portions of my flowers. I went in with a lighter yellow and then did some dimensional shading with some darker yellow shades around the middle. I wanted it to look like it was darker around the middle, and then as it went out, it got lighter in the petals. So I just played around with it as best as I could. I also took some white on a really tiny detail brush, added some little highlights around each of the petals. Once that's done, I took the middle portions of all of my flowers and I painted that with a more burnt sienna kind of color. I also took the back of my paintbrush with some black paint and added in all the little dots into the middle portion of my flowers. For the mason jar itself, I'm going to have it match my window, so I'm using that same Dixie Belle Up in Smoke Voodoo stain, and I will stain all of the pieces of the mason jar in this color. Plus, I liked that it was a silver, which matches the lids of a real mason jar pretty well, and then I just decided to make the whole thing that color. But you can paint this however you want it, whatever colors you want to use, however you want it to look to make it your own. You can do really anything. The sky is the limit on how you want it to look. I finished it off by painting the stems in this aloe green that I got from Hobby Lobby. I want to say it's the Americana brand, and I painted all of those green, and then I will go ahead and glue my piece down using that wood glue super glue. I will try to center that onto my backing as best as I can, and then I will add glue onto all of my other flower pieces and begin assembling them on top of my piece. Now to give it a little extra touch, I'm going to go in with the ephemera that comes in your boxes this month. I had these decorative tacks that I picked up from Hobby Lobby, and they had a sunflower look to them, which I thought was perfect. I'm going to cut that tack down just using a pair of floral wire cutters. They worked really well. Enough so that I can still stick it into the sign, but that it wasn't long enough to go all the way through it. So I took out this little saying from the ephemera pack and I added a decorative tack on either side, and this is what it looks like. Super cute, and I'm loving the way that it matches with my window and the sunflowers that I stuck in there. I took a 1x4 and I took a 1x3. I took it out to my miter saw and cut it out in the shape of a tag, drilled a hole in the top of it so that I had a couple of tags. So obviously one is going to be a bit larger than the second one. Now, if I was going to do this over again, I would have made this larger, or I would have used a smaller wreath. So just from the very beginning, make sure that you measure the size of wreath that you're going to be using so that your tags don't look too small in your wreath. We are going to be putting this inside of a wreath today, so just make sure you're doing some measuring. I thought that I did, and when I got it all done, my wreath was way too big for this, but that is okay. I wanted to show you guys and give you guys the inspiration anyways. So I started by staining both of my pieces with my Waverly Wax and Antique. And then I started taping off my bigger tag in the shape of a flag. So I just did, that square on the left-hand side. I used my Bunker Hill Blue by Dixie Belle to paint that. And then I'm going to use some washi tape and paint on some red stripes. Now, what I should have done was probably just paint the entire thing white besides that blue portion, and then I wouldn't have had to tape twice to paint my red stripes and then my white stripes. The things you learn as you go when you're just crafting. Sometimes my mind just, it doesn't think of the logic things to do. It makes everything a lot harder. So just paint the entire thing white, and then you won't have to worry about retaping and adding your white stripes afterwards. You can just, get it all done in one fell swoop. So I painted my red stripes, retaped to add my white stripes. And once I have my white stripes all the way done, I'm going to remove that washi tape, and I remove it before the paint is dry. I'm going to take some more white paint and just roughly go over the smaller tag, really just a heavy dry brush. And then I cut out the number 1776 on my Cricut, and I'm going to use that as a stencil on my smaller tag. So I just place that over it. You got to remember to put the little circle back in the 6. And then I just take some Waverly chalk paint and ink, and in dabbing motions, just going up and down on all 4 of those numbers. Make sure it's nice and evenly coated. And then I just remove that vinyl to reveal those numbers. Now I am going to also take a vinyl stencil with a star and place that over the blue portion of my flag, and do the same thing with a paintbrush using some white paint, just up and down dabbing motions. You don't want to do side to side so that it doesn't bleed. And I just did, again, a really rough coat of this. It doesn't have to be perfect because I will be roughing it up in a minute. So I'm just going to remove that vinyl stencil, take some sandpaper, and I'm going to go around all of my tags. So all of the sides, and then I am going to go over the front of it to really just kind of rough it up, make it look old and worn. I wanted it to look like old chippy paint. So I just take my sandpaper and go over the entire thing. Next, I'm going to take some nautical rope from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to string it through both of my tags. My smaller tag is going to be on top of my larger one, and I do add some hot glue just to keep those in place so they wouldn't be moving and they are just nice and stuck to each other. So I'm just going to quickly run through how I made this wreath. This is a 15-inch wreath from Hobby Lobby. You can get smaller versions of these from the Dollar Tree, which is what I probably should have used, but for some reason I thought that that wasn't going to be big enough, so I used this larger one. I also used this boxwood greenery that I got off of Amazon. I'll link that in my description box below, but I just tore the greenery picks apart so they came in 2 pieces, and then I just glued those onto my wreath going in all the same direction. And then I did have an extra pick that I cut up into pieces that I went through and filled in the empty spaces after I put these flowers in. These are white roses from the Dollar Tree. I probably used maybe 5 or 6 bunches of these. And then after I put those flowers in, again, I went through with those extra little sprigs of greenery and just kind of filled in all the empty spaces. And that's all you got to do to make this wreath. Really, really easy. And then I took my wooden tags and wrapped that nautical rope around my wreath, tied it in a knot, and then I'm going to hang it on my front door, and I think it looks really cute. Again, it would look probably better in a smaller wreath, but you could either make a smaller wreath or make a bigger tag. So either one, but I think the concept is really adorable and it looks cute hanging on my door. We are going to need a total of 6 terracotta pots and 2 terracotta saucers. You're going to want to make sure that the terracotta saucers you get will fit on either side of one of your larger terracotta pots. You'll see what I mean here in just a minute, but I'm going to go through, take off all those stickers, and you are going to start by painting all of your terracotta pieces white. I did end up doing about 2 coats of this paint, and I'm just using my Waverly chalk paint in white. Once your paint is dry, we are going to start assembling one of our terracotta pots. So I'm going to take the biggest saucer and glue it with some E6000 onto the opening of our terracotta pot. You want to make sure that your saucer matches up perfectly with the opening of the pot so that they can glue together. You don't want it to overlap, you just want it to fit perfectly on there. For your smaller terracotta pot, you're going to put that over the bottom of your terracotta pot. So when it's all said and done, it should look like this. I also do not recommend hot glue for any of these projects. The hot glue doesn't stick well to the terracotta pot. So try using a stronger glue like E6000 or some clear Gorilla Glue. After my glue has set up and dried and my pieces are nice and stuck together, we're going to go ahead and start making some cow spots. So I just took some brown paint and I am going to just randomly draw some spots all over all of my pieces. This does not have to be perfect by any means. I am not a very good artist when it comes to drawing or painting, so I just kind of played around with it and put little brown spots really everywhere. I tried to make it so that they weren't perfectly round, and I just kind of had fun with it. So choose whatever color you want to do for your spots. You could do the traditional black for a cow. I decided to do brown because I felt like it wasn't as harsh of a contrast with the white, but you can do whatever color you want. You could make your cow colorful if you wanted to. This is completely up to you in how you want to do it. So since I am not very good at drawing, I grabbed my Cricut and I found some eyes that I'm going to be using for my cow. I just cut these out using my Cricut Joy. And then I also found a little file for a cow nose. Now, if you are confident in your artist skills in drawing eyes, by all means, just use a paint pen or some paint and draw your eyes on there. I knew I wasn't going to get it the way that I wanted it, so some vinyl to the rescue is what I decided to do. So I am just weeding my vinyl, adding some transfer tape, and I'm trying to align my eyes as best as I can, making sure that they are centered together and one is not completely higher than the other. So I just tried to match those up as best as I could, and I removed the transfer tape, and then I also added those little pieces that I cut out for the nose on the bottom of our smaller terracotta saucer. That is the cow nose. I grabbed a piece of some foam, and this is just white foam from Michaels. I just cut out a little ear, and I used that same ear template to cut out another one. Again, this does not have to be perfect. I just kind of did a shape of an ear as best as I could. If that makes any sense, but you can see this shape that I am cutting it into right here. So I just cut those out, and then again I am going in with some brown paint and I am going to draw on little spots on his ears. Now I'm going to accordion fold the ears, so I fold it in half and then fold those halves backwards. I use my hot glue to glue this all together to make sure that the accordion fold does not come undone, and then I will go ahead and hot glue his ears to his head, just right on that bottom lip of the terracotta saucer. Now it's time to start assembling our cow. So I'm going to take some pieces of rope. This rope comes from the Dollar Tree, and I just unraveled it into smaller pieces. I'm going to take a piece, fold it in half, and stick it up through our biggest terracotta pot. I will tie a knot in it so that it does leave a loop at the top. You also want to make sure that you have enough of that rope left over on the bottom to string through the cow's feet. I took another piece of that rope, strung it through the loop on the top that we just made. And now I'm going to string those ends through 2 of the smaller terracotta pots. These are going to be the cow's arms. So you just want to make sure that you are playing with the rope enough so that you get it to lie where you want it to. So I started with one and added a little bit of hot glue to the knot. Not that it's really going to stick, because hot glue on terracotta pots, it just doesn't work very well. And I'm going to pull that string through so I can kind of get an idea of where I want the arms to fall. I'm going to string through the other terracotta pot on the other side. And again, I'm just going to try to figure out where my other knot needs to be so that the arms fall where I want them to fall. I just kind of made them fall on the sides at the very top, not hanging down too low, just kind of right at the side of the top of that terracotta pot. For the bottom, you're going to use that excess rope that we did in the very beginning, and you are going to string the rope through the bottom of the 2 smaller terracotta pots, tying a knot. I tried to get mine as even as I possibly could so that they hung evenly when you are sitting this down on your surface. Next, you're going to go ahead and attach the cow head to its body. I used some E6000 and a bunch of it on either side of that rope and where the top of the terracotta pot sits, and I just set my cow head right on top, and it has held on strong. This is how my terracotta pot cow turned out. I think this is so cute. I'd love to do a really bigger version of this. So I have a really big cow and then a smaller cow. You can set this on your porch if you want. You can put it on a shelf so his feet dangle down. I plan on putting mine on a little bench that we have on our front porch next to some plants. I thought that would be really cute. Chalk Couture transfers today because they're quick and easy and make designing and creating projects super simple when creating items to sell either on my website or in my booth in the store. So I'm going to take this Land of the Free transfer from Chalk Couture, as well as this herringbone blank sign that you can also purchase from my website. I am going to start by painting the entire backing white. I did do a couple of coats on this, and by the time I was done, I felt like it looked like subway tile, which I thought was really pretty. I wasn't worried if the lines were being filled in with the paint because a lot of that's going to be covered up anyways, but I thought even just painting this white and keeping it like this was really pretty as well. So I'm going to start by taking my Chalk Couture surface wax. I use this anytime that I am putting a Chalk Couture transfer on wood or any other kind of porous surface. This is going to help protect from bleeding and protect your transfer from picking up, any kind of wood splinters or anything like that. I have just personally found that the wax helps make my images look a lot better than not using it, but that's just my personal opinion and what I have found. You can do however you want to do it. I know a lot of people don't use it and still have a lot of success. Now I taped off a little section of the sign. I'm going to go in with this Bunker Hill blue from Dixie Belle paint, and I am going to give this 2 coats of this paint. I'm taking the Chalk Couture woven thick thin stripes, and I am going to put that on the other half of my sign where the white still is. I'm going to grab my candy apple red chalk paste from Chalk Couture, and I am going to spread that over the entire white portion of my sign using a squeegee. This probably would have worked better if I had one of their larger squeegees, so invest in one of their bigger squeegees for your bigger projects. But I just took my time with it, got it all covered, and then peeled up my transfer. Next, I'm going to take the cutouts that you can pair with your Land of the Free transfers. They come with the letters to spell America, so I would just put my letter down underneath the corresponding letter, and then I used my black chalk paste to chalk on top of it, and I just repeated that step for all of those letters. I am going to chalk on top of the blue that we painted down. Now you probably didn't need to paint your entire sign white since I covered it up with this blue anyways, but I wasn't sure exactly what I was going to do, so you could probably skip painting the entire thing white and save yourself some time, but I'm going to add my star transfers on top, and I just tried to line them up as best as I could and put as many stars as I could on top of our blue section. I laid out my letters to spell out America on top of my sign. I'm taking some E6000 and I just kind of spread it around on each of those letters and tried to get them as even as I possibly could. I took a paint stir stick to try to make sure that everything was nice and even at the bottom and everything was nice and straight. So I just took my time, went from the outside in to get all of my letters glued down. Lastly, I'm going to take the transfer that says Land of the Free. I just centered it below the word America using my black chalk paste and squeegeed that on there. And that is it for this DIY. I love the way that this turns out. I think it looks really nice and really high end. I can't decide if I'm going to put this on my online store or if I'm going to put it in my booth. Let me know what your thoughts are. Should I give it a little time in the online store first for everybody? Or should I just go straight to putting it in the booth? DIY, I'm going to grab one of these mason jar signs that you can pick up from the Dollar Tree, $1.25. I'm going to start by removing this metal piece from the top and setting that to the side because we are going to use it later. And I'm going to use the back as the front for this one. And I'm going to take some washi tape and I just start sectioning off my mason jar. I'm going to use Dixie Belle, Bunker Hill Blue, and Barn Red for my paint colors. And I started painting on the bottom, decided I want to paint on the top portion of this. So I'm going to use that Bunker Hill Blue to give the top portion of my mason jar 2 good coats. You don't really have to paint the very top because we are going to use that metal piece that we took off from the front on it. So if you don't want to paint that, then don't worry because we're just going to be covering it up later. And then I'm going to remove that washi tape, make sure my paint is all the way dry, and then take another piece of washi tape, add it on top of that blue that we just painted right on that line so it all matches up nice and even. And I'm going to start by painting this white, which accidentally painting that portion of the sign blue made this a little difficult, so I had to do 2 good coats of white to make sure that I got that blue covered up. But I'm just going to paint the entire thing white, and then after I've painted that white and it's all nice and dry, I'm going to take some more washi tape and I'm going to start sectioning off the white portion for some stripes. I tried my best to get this as even as I possibly could, tried to do it about an 1.5 inches between each of my washi tape pieces. You can see that the sides are not totally even, but you know, it is what it is. So I'm going to take that red color from Dixie Belle and I'm going to paint my red stripes, and I did give each stripe about 2 coats of paint. And then before they completely dried, I'm just going to remove my washi tape. I did have a little bit of bleeding, but nothing too crazy. I didn't worry about touching it up. Now I'm going to take these wood cut out stars. These are actually stars that we cut out with our laser machine. If you guys are interested in kind of like a shapes, you know, a pack of shapes, different sizes, let me know in the comments down below. I've thought about doing that, but where you can get them at other stores pretty easily is kind of why we've hesitated. So I'm sure that you could go out to Hobby Lobby and find stars like this, but I just didn't have time to go there, so I just cut them out myself. But again, if that's something that you guys would like to see, let me know in the comments below. So I just took a white paint pen and just painted all of my stars white. Now I'm going to take that galvanized piece that came with the sign. I'm I'm going to add some hot glue to the back, and I'm just going to hot glue it to the top of my mason jar. And then I just laid out my stars in the pattern that I wanted them to be in, and I just started hot gluing those down to the top. I used about 4 of the big ones and 3 of the small ones. And then just for a little added touch, I took my white paint pen, kind of drew some lines around it just to give it a little bit more detail so it wasn't looking so plain. You could do this with a black paint pen if you wanted. You could do squiggly lines instead of straight. Definitely doesn't have to be perfect because mine is not. I just added a little bit more detail to make it a little bit more fun. Now I'm going to make a bow by taking several different kinds of ribbon. I have a lot from the Dollar Tree and then I think some from Michael's. And I used 4 different kinds and I cut out 3 pieces per kind of ribbon that I was using. I also grabbed some of this mesh from the Dollar Tree, cut out the blue portion to the length that I needed it, and then cut it into 3 different sections. And then I'm just going to start by crossing them all on top of each other. This is just a messy bow. This does not have to be perfect by any means. I just kind of made it into sort of an X where it kind of all just met in the middle, and where it met in the middle I took some twine and tied it in a knot and then just wrapped that twine around the middle several times and then tied a double knot in the back. And that's all you have to do for the messy bow. Really, there's not a technique to this. If you are a brand new beginner crafter, you can do this. This takes really no time at all, and I think it looks really cute. So after you're done making that, you're just going to hot glue it to the side of your mason jar. You could add a hanger on this to hang it on your door or in a wreath, but I just think it looks cute on a shelf. Before jumping into our next DIY, let me know in the comments down below, what is your favorite season to craft for? I am particular to fall myself, but I want to know what your favorite season to craft for is in the comments below. I grabbed a round vase from Walmart. I also picked up a 16-ounce resin kit from Walmart. It's just the Mod Podge brand of it. And I'm going to start by just removing that sticker using my heat gun and getting that sticker off there. I also picked up these white rocks from Walmart. I don't remember how much they cost, but I want to say they were about $1. I ended up washing them because I didn't want any of the rock dust or anything in this DIY or in my project. So I just washed them off with some water and dried them off with a paper towel. So the first time that I did this, I ended up adding the resin first and then the rocks in afterwards. I decided to do it a second time and I added the rocks in first and then poured the resin in. I felt like this was just a little bit better. It didn't give as many air bubbles to the resin, so I'd recommend putting your rocks in first. And now I am going to mix up my resin. So you are going to have 2 different bottles in this resin kit. You want to make sure that you are doing equal parts. So however much of one bottle you're putting in, you want to put in the exact same amount with your other bottle. So there's like a resin and then a hardener. So like I said, make sure you're putting in equal parts of both. I just put it in this bowl that I had that I could throw away, so I wasn't too worried about ruining it, but I'm just going to put in equal parts, and then with a popsicle stick, I'm going to mix and mix and mix for 3 minutes. You want to make sure that you read all the directions on the resin kit. You want to make sure that you're wearing gloves and that you're in a well-ventilated area. I had my window open while I did this, so just make sure to read all the safety instructions and everything else before you start with your resin kit. So then after you have stirred it for 3 minutes, you can go ahead and pour it into your vase. So I'm just pouring the entire thing into that round vase. And then it also says that you want to use a heat gun to get rid of bubbles. So the very first time that I did this, I waited too long to put my flowers in. And so the resin hardened and I couldn't put my flowers in. I'll show you what I did with the other vase that I messed up on, but you want to make sure that you are using your heat gun to get the bubbles out. I did it once with my heat gun and then I put my flowers in. There were still bubbles in it, but it wasn't enough to bother me. And then I cut up about 4 bunches of tulips that I got from Michael's. They were $3.99, but then they're on sale, I believe, for 40% off. And I just loved these peachy colors and cream tones. I just thought that they were really pretty. So I just started placing the little picks randomly in the vase, just, all over the place. I didn't try to make it perfect. I just kind of bunched them up in there and let them fall where they wanted to fall. And then I just set it to the side and let the resin completely harden. And that's all you got to do for this DIY. This is actually really, really easy. And I think that the look turns out so beautiful. You've got this fake water look in there with the rocks in the bottom. And I just think it looks absolutely gorgeous. With the vase that I tried doing the first time, like I said, I put the rocks in after I put the resin in. I would do it the opposite way, and then I accidentally let it harden without being able to put the flowers in. So I didn't want this to go to waste. So I ended up taking some succulents that I had and I just set them on top, and it made it look like these floating succulents in this vase, and I thought it turned out super pretty. DIY. Now, if you have some scrap wood and you want to cut yourself out a couple house shapes, you can definitely do that. I did not have this kind of wood at the time, so I just used what I had in my stash, which is these Target houses that I got a little bit ago. So if you have those, you can use those. If you don't, grab yourself some scrap wood and just cut them into the house shapes. Now I'm going to take my God Bless America scrapbook paper pack that is back in stock on my website. I only ordered a very limited more of them, so if you want them, make sure that you grab them because they did sell out within a day the last time I posted about these. So I am just going to take some pieces of scrapbook paper. I took a piece for the back, and then they have these fun picture ones that I ended up cutting out, one for each of my houses. I love the little designs, and I think that it's really fun that you have, a little picture on your scrapbook paper that you can cut out and use for all sorts of different things. So I just cut 2 of those out, and I took my houses, I traced my houses on the back of the scrapbook paper that I wanted to use, and I ended up cutting those out just, with some scissors, try to make sure that I got them as close to the correct size as I wanted them to be. And then I'm just going to take some glue stick and add my scrapbook paper to my houses. And with the 2 pictures, the Old Glory and the America the Beautiful, I wanted these to look all ripped up and old and worn, and I needed them to fit on my houses a little bit better. So I just ended up ripping all 4 sides on each one, and I just kept ripping until it got to the correct size that I needed it to be. And I did that for both of these pieces, just ripped it up until it was the size I needed it to be. And then I'm just going to go over all the edges with some Waverly Wax and Antique. So I'm just taking a small paintbrush, adding a little bit of that wax on there, and then using my finger to really rub that wax in on the sides so that it does look very worn and kind of messy. Again, if you don't like that old and worn look, you can completely skip this step. Now I'm just going to take my glue stick again on the back of those pictures, and I'm just going to add that to both of my houses. Now Now to give it a little bit of a finishing touch for the Old Glory one in the mason jars, I took some twine and wrapped it around that portion, kind of where the top of the lid was on my mason jars, and I wrapped that twine around, added a little bow, so it kind of looked like the mason jars were tied together, and I just cut off the tails to make sure that those were even. Then for the second house, I'm just going to add some twine around the bottom portion about 2 times and tie it in a double knot in the back to secure it in place. That's it for this DIY. These are so easy to make, really fun, really fast to make as well. You could add these to your tray or just to, your patriotic decor on your shelf, either way, but I think these turned out really cute. For this DIY, you're going to need some of this Edge Supply wood trim. You're also going to need one of these stars that you can get from the Dollar Tree. Some scrapbook paper. I'm going to take my God Bless America 12x12 scrapbook paper pack from my website. And then I'm going to take this wooden sign from Hobby Lobby. I got this around Christmas time last year, and I still had it in my stash. So I'm going to finally use that. And I'm going to start by measuring out a frame with that wood trim that I got off of Amazon. I'll have that linked down below. I have been obsessed with this lately. If you've seen any of my past recent videos, you know that I've been loving this. So I'm just taking that and I just measured out for a frame around all 4 sides, and you're just going to cut out 4 pieces. I just stained it with my Waverly Wax and Antique, and I'm also going around all 4 sides of the sign so that the sign matches the frame and it's not, a brown frame and then you look at the side of the sign and it's white. So I just painted that with the wax from Waverly and made that all the same. Now the nice thing about this wood trim that I really like is the backside has an adhesive, glue to it that is activated when you heat it up. So I take my heat gun and go right on top of it, and that activates the glue, and all I got to do is push that down onto my sign and it's all nice and stuck down there. So I just do that with all 4 pieces that I have cut out with that wood trim and just put it on my sign. It's really as simple and easy as that, which is another reason why I've been super obsessed with this stuff lately. Now I'm going to take that star I got from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to take my scrapbook paper and I am going to pick out a piece of paper that I think is going to look good for this DIY. I found this one that is the Star Spangled Banner song, the music on there. I thought this would be really fun. So I just traced this out with a pen and I cut this out with my scissors. Again, I'll have my website linked down below. It's moorevinyldecals.com. I have several of these left, so if you're interested, grab them before they're gone because my patriotic paper always goes really fast and I only restock it if I get a bunch of people on the wait list. So if it's something that you want, grab it or sign up for the wait list if it ends up selling out so that I know that you guys want it. So I'm just going to use a glue stick to adhere that paper to my star, and I go around the edges with a small paintbrush in my Waverly Wax and Antique, kind of run my finger along the edges to give it a nice smeared and rusty look to it so it looks nice and worn, and I just go around all the sides of the star. Now I wanted to make a little bow for this, so I'm going to take my twine, wrap it around 2 of my fingers twice, take an excess piece of twine and wrap that around the middle of my twine, tie it in a double knot, and you have a super cute little twine bow. So I just add some hot glue to the back, hot glue it to the top of my star. I cut my tails down so it's not hanging too far over, and then I add my hot glue to the back of the star and hot glue that right into the middle of my sign. And that's it for this DIY. I think that this looks really cute and really fun if you're looking for some more just neutral patriotic decor. I think this one is really fun. For this DIY, I'm going to grab one of these houses that has come out with the new beach theme at the Dollar Tree. I just took a flathead screwdriver and popped off the roof part from the very top. It does have kind of like little nails inside of it. So I just took some pliers and took those nails out. And then I wanted the back to not have that sticker on it, the sparkly glittery sticker. So I just took all of the paper off from the front. So I'm just going to remove that sticker from the back, and I'm going to take my Waverly chalk paint and plaster, and I gave this 2 good coats of that color. Now I'm going to take another one of these stencils that I found at the Dollar Tree. I'm going to use the It's Good to Be Home. I'm going to lay this down on my house, use some washi tape to keep it in place, and then I am going to cover up that heart with some washi tape because I don't want to stencil in the heart. I'm going to use something else for the O in home. So once I have all my washi tape down, I'm going to take some Waverly chalk paint and ink on a sponge, and I'm just going to dab up and down over the entire thing. Like I said, make sure that you're not coating your sponge in paint and you're dabbing off as much excess as you can, and then you're going over it. You just want to do light layers. And then you're just going to remove your stencil, and I took some more gel super glue from the Dollar Tree, added that to the top of my roof so that I could reapply the little roof that came with the house originally. And then I'm going to take this cute little laser cut pack that I got from Hobby Lobby. It was $3.99, but it also was on sale, and you get a bunch of cute little cutouts. This was for their spring collection, and I found this little flower in there. I'm going to take some Arteza paint pens. This one I believe is in the color Bumblebee, and I'm just going to color the entire thing with this paint pen. I like these for little pieces like this because then you're not making a big paint mess absolutely everywhere, and it's really easy to get the paint onto the flower, like I said, without making a big mess. So I just use that on my flower, and then I'm just going to use some gel super glue and attach it to the house as the O in the word home. I'm going to take some scrapbook paper from this 6x6 sunflower market pack from my website. You can get this bee pattern also as a single sheet on my website if you don't want to get the entire paper pack. But I like these little bees, and I thought that this was perfect with the sunflower. They go together. So I'm just going to cut that out, and I just put a little portion on the bottom half of my house. It was just looking a little too plain, so I added that scrapbook paper. And then I also found this yellow trim at Hobby Lobby. I cut that down and adhered the ends to the back of the house with some hot glue. And then I'm also going to take some twine, wrap it 2 times around that yellow trim, tie it in a knot in the back to keep that in place, and tie a little twine bow, taking it in 2 loops and tying it together like you would your shoelace. I just made this really small, so I just pulled on those ends until the loops were as small as I wanted them to be. I hot glued that to the middle of the twine, cut those tails down, and that is it for this DIY. DIY, you are going to need a large, a medium, and a small terracotta pot. When you're purchasing these, you want to make sure that they all fit together when you stack them all on top of each other, and they actually stack rather than sitting right on top. So you want to make sure that your middle terracotta pot goes down on top of your biggest one, and then your smallest one goes down on top of your medium one. Hopefully that makes sense, but I'll show you what we're doing here in just a minute. I'm going to take some silver lining chalk paint from Waverly, and I'm going to paint the entire biggest terracotta pot in this color. For my medium and my small terracotta pot, I'm going to grab that aloe color green, and I'm going to give them 2 coats of paint. With this paint, since it's not a chalk paint, you can kind of see the terracotta color through it. It's not as thick as regular chalk paint, so I did need to do 2 coats on these 2 pots. Now, while those are drying, you're going to go back to your biggest terracotta pot and you are going to draw a beard. We are making a gnome out of terracotta pots. Now, again, I am not the greatest artist by any means, so I just kind of sketched out the best beard that I could possibly sketch out. And this is just a rough sketch. We're going to be going over it a bunch in a minute. I have some techniques to cover up your mistakes or, your weird squiggly lines like what I'm drawing here to make it look a little bit better. So I just started out with this little outline. I'm going to go in with white, and then I'm also going to go in with some darker gray before the white paint dries. Now, because this chalk paint does dry fairly quickly on terracotta pots, you want to kind of do this in sections. So I started out with my white, added my white on there, and then I went in with that darker gray to add some more streaks and more definition to his beard so it isn't just a flat white. I wanted his beard to look salt and peppery. I wanted it to look like streaky. Like it had a whole bunch of dimension to it. So I just went back and forth with the white, with the gray, and tried to blend them together as best as I could. And like I said, you want to kind of do it in sections because that paint does dry fairly quickly on these terracotta pots. It doesn't give you a whole lot of time to blend the 2 colors together and give that streaky bearded look. So once I've gone over the entire thing, the next thing I'm going to do is try to draw him a little mustache. Now, again, I didn't do the best job, but in the end, I still think it looks really cute. So if you are a struggling artist like me and you don't think that you can hand draw things very well, trust me, you can do this project. If I can do it, you can do it, and it will look great. So I just tried to draw a mustache as best as I could with that darker gray color, and I just did this on a pointed detail brush, and then I tried to do little wispy strokes, making his mustache look nice and wispy, and I went over the entire mustache like that. Next, I grabbed a chip brush that you can actually find at the Dollar Tree, and I dipped it into the darker gray, and I just did kind of small strokes. Again, I wanted his beard to look nice and wispy. I wanted kind of those individual hair looks. So I went in with the gray, and then I did go over it with the white on top of it. So this was my idea to try to cover up the ends of the beard drawing that I did in the first place. Try to make it all look, not as weird on the sides. And I think it turned out really good considering we are drawing a beard on a terracotta pot. I think it looks great. So the next thing you're going to do is add some E6000 to your pots. Now you want to kind of make that E6000 go on the outside of the bottom of your pot so that when you're adding your pot on top, it's actually touching the glue. If you're putting it right on top of your terracotta pot, it's not going to touch the glue, and so it's not going to stick. So try to do it around the outside of the bottom of your pot and stack your pots together. The last step is to grab a half circle bead from Hobby Lobby, or you could also get these off of Amazon. I just picked mine up from Hobby Lobby, and I added a touch of E6000 as well as a touch of hot glue, even though it's not going to stick, but I wanted that fast hold right away so that my nose could set up over time with that E6000. You're just going to add that nose to your gnome, and that is it for this one. Look how cute he is sitting outside. You don't have to go buy those expensive garden gnomes. You can make one on your own with 3 terracotta pots, and I think it looks absolutely adorable. This project was super quick and easy. Any beginner DIYer can do it. Now I wanted to show you guys some wood DIYs that you could do without using any power tools. So for this, I'm grabbing 4 wooden crates from the Dollar Tree, and then I'm going to take my Dixie Belle Barn Red and Bunker Hill Blue, and I'm going to paint one of those crates in that Bunker Hill Blue, and this is going to be on top of another crate, so I want to make sure that I'm getting some paint down inside the crate. That way, if you can see down inside the crate, it's not just that natural wood color. And then I'm going to do the same thing with one of my other crates that I'm painting red. I'm making sure that I'm getting down into that crate. But for the other 2 crates, I'm just going to paint them red, and I'm not going to worry about painting the inside because you're not going to be able to see it. Now I am going to take all 4 of those crates and glue them together, 2 red crates on the bottom and then the red and blue crate on the top. Now I'm going to take my white Waverly chalk paint and I'm just going to paint some white stripes for this. And I didn't worry about using any tape or anything. They're all kind of, indented anyway with those slats. So I just followed those lines and painted them white. Now I'm going to grab these little wooden stars that I actually cut out from our laser machine. I am going to put some wooden shapes like these stars up on my website probably this weekend. So if you're interested in grabbing small little shapes like this, keep an eye out for this weekend. I will have them up. I'll post when I get them up on my website. But sometimes it's just easier to cut these out myself than try to run to a store and try to find them. So if you would like them, they will be up on the website. And I just took 6 of them, painted them with an acrylic paint pen, and then hot glued them to my blue crate, added some distressing using my Waverly Wax Antique. I'm going to fill this with some greenery and put it out on a shelf. And I think this looks super cute as an American flag planter. I'm going to grab this little house and this fabric. Both came from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to start by just kind of rough tracing the outline of the house on the fabric. Now this is going to be cut down quite a bit until I can get it to fit inside the house. So I just cut that out, and then I will lay that fabric back down onto the house, kind of figure out where I need to trim it. It doesn't have to be perfect because I am going to be fraying the edges. Once I get it roughly the shape that I want it, I'm just going to go through and pull out a whole bunch of strings on all the sides to give it that frayed look. Now once I have that done, I am going to take some Mod Podge and I'm going to put that all over the back of my house, and then I add my fabric to the back of the sign. Now I'm going to take this little round, this is actually from Chalk Couture. It's one of their little round chip pieces, and it was the perfect size for this DIY. So I grabbed this. I'm going to take some Folk Art Italian Sage paint, and I gave this about 2 good coats of paint. I'm going to take one of these transfers that you can get from the Dollar Tree. I cut out this little bee inside of the wreath and added that to the center of my round, and I just used a popsicle stick to rub this on here. Now the trick with these ones is that you have to hold down that paper really nice and tight so it doesn't go sliding around, and just go around your entire thing. It does transfer on pretty easily, which I was impressed with. And then I just glued that to the middle of my sign, and that's it for this DIY. Super simple and easy, and I thought this turned out adorable. Now, another DIY where you don't need any power tools and you can actually go out and just buy this. This is a pallet plank from Walmart. I believe it was under $3. And I am going to take 3 more of those wooden stars that I cut out with my laser machine. I think that these ones are about 3 inches, and I took 3 of them, and I'm just going to paint them using my Waverly chalk paint in white. I just gave them one good coat, and I'm going to hot glue them in a line on that wooden piece. And then I am going to start taking some ribbon. So I grabbed all sorts of different ribbon. I grabbed some burlap ribbon from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to cut that into 3 pieces. Now, I wanted this ribbon to be frayed, so what I'm going to do is take my scissors and cut off the ends on each of these pieces of ribbon, and you're going to cut off the wire part on each side. After you've gotten that wire part taken out and cut off, you can pull some strings on each of the sides. I pulled out maybe 2 or 3 just to give it that frayed look. Now I'm going to take some of this lace ribbon from the Dollar Tree. I cut out 3 of these to layer on top of the burlap ribbon. In the end, I ended up using maybe another 6 strips of the lace ribbon. And then I found some other ribbon in my stash, some red ribbon, some gingham print, and some stripes. And I just cut out several strips of those for each side. Now I'm going to start by hot gluing my lace ribbon to my burlap ribbon. And then I hot glue the ribbon down to the back of my sign. Now I'm going to put 2 of the burlap pieces on each side and then 1 in the middle, and then I lay out my other pieces of ribbon just kind of in a pattern and hot glue those down into each section between those burlap ribbon pieces. And I'm going to do the exact same thing to the other side. Now when I had that done, I felt like it was still looking a little too sparse, so I took more of that lace ribbon from the Dollar Tree and I just kind of layered it on the back to make it look a little bit more full, and then I added a hanger on the back just using some twine, and that is how this DIY turned out. You're going to grab one of these bike wheel wreath forms that you can get from Dollar Tree. This was the first time that I had ever seen them, and I had to pick one up, and I'm sure there have been plenty of these DIYs out there, but I absolutely love this style of wreath, so I knew I had to make one. So what I'm going to do is take that wreath form and this wooden knob that I got in a pack from Hobby Lobby, and then I'm going to use this metallic gold spray paint from Rust-Oleum. I took it out to my backyard, gave it all one good coat front and back, and then once it's all dry, I'm bringing it inside, and I have this bouquet of flowers that I purchased from Walmart, and I absolutely love these. When I saw them, I was just super excited about them. I bought 2 of them. I want to say they were about $5 or $6. I can't remember exactly, but the bouquet itself is big and you're getting a ton of really pretty flowers. So I knew I wanted to use these florals for this specific project. So I just went ahead and cut off all the stems that I knew I wanted to use on this wreath, and then left the rest of the flowers for a different project in the future. Now, to give me a little bit more area to work with, I took some floral foam and I cut it down into individual pieces, and I'm just pressing that where I'm going to have the florals be. So I'm just kind of putting those indents in there, and then I will go in with some hot glue to sort of attach the foam to the wreath itself. It's not super secure, and I did have to go back through over on top of it with hot glue as well. So that is one option if you don't want to try to figure out how to get all the florals to stick just to the metal wreath. It can be a little tricky, so that's just one thing that I did with this one. And then I like setting out all my florals before I go ahead and attach them, just so I can kind of get an idea of where I want to put them, get a good layout of it, see if I need more florals, and just try to get a feel of how I want it to look. So I just set everything out first, and then once I'm happy with it, I'm gonna go ahead and start just assembling it. Because the floral foam is there, I was able to just stick my picks into the floral foam. If I needed a little bit more security, I could take my hot glue and hot glue the leaves down to the floral foam and to that wired wreath. Super easy, and I just messed with this until I got the look that I was going for. I think in the end it turned out absolutely adorable. Once all of my florals are in there, I'm just going to take this little knob, put some hot glue on the back, and then hot glue it right to the center of my wheel. And then to hang it, I just took some ribbon that I had, cut a piece off, and then just tied it around the top in a knot, cut off that excess part at the top, and that's it for this DIY. This has got to be my favorite one from this video. I absolutely love it. If it wasn't 115 degrees here in Arizona, I'd be hanging it on my front door, but it would all probably melt with the hot glue, so it may have to just stay hanging in my office for now. If you're enjoying this video so far, make sure to give it a big thumbs up so that I know that you love these mega videos so that I can continue to make them for you in the future. It also helps my channel so much to give it a thumbs up, so make sure if you're enjoying it, click that thumbs up button below. For this DIY, I'm going to grab one of these removable decals that you can get from the Dollar Tree, and then I grabbed this pack of 2 round signs from the Target dollar spot. It was $5. I'm just going to use one of them for this DIY, and I'm going to take that sticker from the Dollar Tree and I'm going to add it to the front of this round sign. And I just centered it as best as I could, and then I took a blade and cut all the edges off from the corners. Now, I wanted to paint this with my Farmhouse green chalk paint from Dixie Belle. I love that this piece is textured, so even though I'm painting over it, you'll still be able to see that pattern peeking through, which I love. I'm going to give this 2 coats of this chalk paint, and I'm even going to go around all the sides, and I paint the back as well. I'm going to set that aside to dry, and in a bowl that you can throw away, I'm going to do a resin kit. So I got my resin kit from Walmart in their glue section. You're going to add the first part of your resin and then the second part of your resin, and you just want to make sure that you're adding equal parts. Once you've added both of those, you're going to mix it and mix it and mix it for 3 minutes. Also, make sure you're wearing protective gloves and that you're in a well-ventilated area. I made sure to have my window open up while I was doing this DIY. Now, I grabbed a glass bowl from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to add my resin mixture into that glass. And then I also grabbed these really pretty white florals from Michael's, I believe. They were $1.99, and I'm just going to take a couple of them, cut off those stems at the bottom, and then add them into my resin. I wanted this to look like flowers that were floating on top of water. So I'm just going to stick those in there and let that dry. And then I'm going to go over the top of my round sign, and I wanted the texture to kind of pop up a little bit more. So I'm going to take a chip brush from the Dollar Tree and some white Waverly chalk paint and just dry brush all over that entire thing, just again to make that texture kind of pop out more. And then to finish off, I'm just going to add some super glue around the top of my bowl, and I'm going to set my sign on top of that. And then you have this really pretty little riser and tray that has the floating flowers in the bottom. I just thought that this was such a fun project. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. DIY, you are going to grab a fairly large terracotta pot. I wish that they had the sizes on these. I'm not sure what the size is, but this was one of the bigger ones from Michael's when I was shopping for them. I'm going to go ahead and paint it white. Now I'm going to make a couple different ones of this project. So however many mushrooms you want to do, that's what we're going to be making, is how many pots you want to make. So I grabbed 2 of these larger ones, and then I am going to do a smaller one as well. But for all of your bases, you are going to paint all of those white. Now for the top of the mushrooms, you can do a couple things. You can just put one saucer on top, or you can stack your saucers together. So for my larger mushrooms, I am going to take 2 saucers and stack them together. For my smaller, I chose just the one saucer. So for one of my mushrooms, I'm going to paint it red, and you don't have to paint the bottom saucer all the way since it's going to be covered up. So save yourself some paint and don't cover the entire thing. You want to make sure that you cover the entire top saucer though. Since it's going to be seen, you want to make sure that it's fully painted. I went around with some E6000 on the top of that saucer, trying to get it about where the other saucer will lay right on top of it, and you'll just stack your 2 saucers together. Now I'm going to repeat those steps for my next pair of saucers. I grabbed this aloe green that I believe comes from Americana paint, and I just picked this up at Hobby Lobby. I'm really obsessed with this color lately. I think it's really pretty, especially for spring and summer. So I chose this color to be for my next mushroom. So I'm going to paint the bottom saucer. Didn't worry about painting the middle since you're not going to see it. And then I painted my top saucer that color as well. Going in again with some E6000 around the top, trying to get it where the other saucer is going to touch it so that it, glues together, and then I'll just place that smaller saucer on top. While those 2 pieces are setting up with the glue, I'm going to take my smaller saucer and I'm going to use a yellow. I believe I chose the Apple Barrel Golden Sunset color. I could be completely wrong, but it's one of my favorite yellows, a very burnt kind of dirty yellow, and I just think it's super pretty. So next I want to create the white circles or the white polka dots on my mushrooms, and I just grabbed a round sponge that you can pick up from the Dollar Tree. You could also do this just with a paintbrush, which I will show you how I did that in a minute as well. But your goal is just to make a whole bunch of circles or polka dots all over your mushroom lids, and that's really about it. There's not really a good technique to do it besides just putting your sponge down on there and twisting, and you will get some polka dots. You could even get a smaller sponge and do different size polka dots if you wanted. I also took my paintbrush and kind of just went around in a circle, especially where the ridges of the saucer is. It's kind of a bit easier to do it with a paintbrush versus sponge on the ridges. And then any kind of mistakes or anything, I just go back in with my paintbrush to fix it. To attach your mushroom top to its base, you're going to grab some E6000 and run it along that top lip on the bottom of your terracotta pot, and then just add your mushroom top right on top. You'll repeat that step for all the mushrooms that you make, and this is how they turned out. This is so cute. I have these sitting in my garden bed at the front of my house, and I think that they are so cute. They add a fun pop of color, and then they're just kind of, garden fairy themed. I think I just really like them. You could also make them garden fairy houses. You could add a little door to the front, which I thought that would be really cute as well if you are looking for more of kind of a fairy garden theme look to any of your garden beds. But I thought this was so much fun. I want to make a whole bunch of really small ones and just put them all around my garden bed. I thought that would be really cute as well. I'm going to take one of these round wooden signs from the Dollar Tree, and then I'm also going to take some scrapbook paper. This is a single sheet of scrapbook paper that you can also get from my website. I thought this one was really fun, but I loved the red and white stripes for this DIY, so I'm going to take my round, I'm going to lay it on top and trace it out with a pen, and then I'll just take my scissors and cut that circle out. Next, I'm going to take my glue stick and just glue my paper to the sign. Again, you can use whatever adhesive you want. I get a lot of people ask me why I use a glue stick and not Mod Podge. I am not super confident in myself, in my Mod Podging skills. When it comes to big pieces of paper like this, I usually mess it up and it gets all wrinkly, so that's why I use a glue stick, but you use whatever you like. Now I'm going to take these window clings from the Dollar Tree and I'm going to take this truck, which I think is so cute, and I laid this down on top and you can definitely see those stripes through the truck. So what I'm going to do is take a thicker piece of white cardstock. I'm going to add some Mod Podge to the back of my truck, and like the project before, we are going to glue this down to the paper so that your truck isn't see-through anymore and it can be clearly seen on your sign without blending in too much. And then I just brushed a little bit of Mod Podge over the top of the truck as well. I waited for that to completely dry and then I just took my scissors and cut around the entire thing. Now I'm going to take my glue stick, and maybe some Mod Podge would have worked best for this, but it was getting kind of wrinkly. I didn't want to mess it up. So it's kind of like an experiment. I got to figure out what kind of adhesive is going to work best for each of my projects. So I used a mixture of some glue stick and some Mod Podge for this one, but just get your truck stuck down towards the bottom portion of your sign. Then you're going to take some greenery, whichever greenery you want. I got this one from Michael's, and I grabbed this burlap ribbon from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to make a bow with it. So I just cut out a piece for my loop. I add some hot glue onto the back and loop that together. So you got one big loop. And then I just take some more for a tail, kind of measure how long I want that tail to be. And then I'll stack that loop on top of the tail, take some twine, wrap that right in the middle and scrunch it all up as best as I can, and wrap that twine around the middle several times and tie a double knot in the back. So really easy to make these bows. I need to learn another way to make them. I've seen some other people make them even easier than this, so I will definitely do that. But this is how I make mine, and I love the twine middle two of them as well. Now I'm just going to hot glue down my greenery to the top portion of my sign, and then I'll take my bow and hot glue that down to the middle of my greenery. You could add a hanger on the back of this, make it a door hanger, put it on a shelf, really whatever you want to do. I think this one turned out super cute. I grabbed one of the larger terracotta pots that Michael's has, and I had this red terracotta color. I think it actually is called like red clay or red terracotta, and I wanted it to be a bit more red than the orange terracotta color, so I went through and painted it with this color, giving it one good coat, and it actually did have fairly good coverage on it, so I only needed to do one coat of this paint. I did go through with some sandpaper to give it a little bit more of a distressed look around the ridges on the top, trying to get that terracotta pot to show through the paint. Now again, hot glue is not the best choice for this kind of DIY. You want to use a better glue. For some reason, hot glue in terracotta pots, they just don't do so well. But I took a piece of rope that you can get from the Dollar Tree, and I lined the lip of the terracotta pot with the rope just underneath, and I hot glued it all the way around. I grabbed a Chalk Couture transfer. This is the bee from the Busy transfer, which I think is so cute. I love this bee so much, and I'm going to use my velvet chalk paste over the bee. If you're ever interested in Chalk Couture, I always have it linked down below. They have some really fun summer transfers out right now that I plan on using in some future videos, but this bee is one of my favorites, and I just transferred it right to the front and then added some little florals florals on inside. You could also just use this as a regular pot, add some real flowers on the inside and put it outside, which I also might do as well. I plan on garden shopping this week and redoing my front porch, adding a whole bunch of new plants, and I may add some flowers in here, but this is how it turned out. It's really, really cute. I love the vintage bee look on the front. That is going to be my theme for summer, is bees. And that's it. Super easy, super quick, and I love how it turned out. You're going to take one of these small block signs from the Dollar Tree. It has burlap on the back, which I really like, and I'm going to leave that there, but I'm going to remove the paper on the front of the sign. Now, what I'm going to use next to cover this up is, you know, a first for me, but I'm going to use some hot dog holders. Yes, I thought the pattern on this was really cute, and I thought I could do something with that. So I'm going to take one of my hot dog holders, I'm going to lay it on top of my sign, and I'm just going to press all around it so I have a nice indent where that sign is, and I can take my scissors and cut that out. Once I have it cut out, I'm just going to use my glue stick on this one. I'm going to go all around it, and then I'm going to add my paper to the middle of the sign. Now I'm also going to go around the edges with my Waverly Wax and Antique. I'm just trying to kind of blend that paper in with the sides a little bit, and then it also does add a nice rustic touch to your piece. I'm going to take these window clings from the Dollar Tree. I thought these were so cute, and the little I Heart USA down there on the right was perfect for this one. Now, when you put it right on top, it is kind of see-through, so I'm going to put some Mod Podge on the back of this, and I'm going to stick it down to a piece of paper so that it isn't completely see-through when I lay it down on top of my piece. And I'm just going to cut that out, and I'm going to trim that paper around all the sides so it looks like one nice piece. Once I have that cut out, I'm just going to add some more Mod Podge to the back and glue it right to the middle of my sign. I'll kind of go over the top a little bit too so that I make sure it's nice and stuck down there. And that's it for this DIY. This was so easy, and you never know what kind of things that you can use for some DIYs. So don't pass up those hot dog holders because you can definitely do some cute DIYs with them. DIY, you are going to grab some 5x5 square pieces. You can actually get these from Michael's, so again, you don't have to have any power tools for this DIY. These were about 99 cents, I believe, which is perfect if you like wood DIYs, but you don't have any power tools and you're not, you don't have the capability to cut things down. You can go to Michael's and snag these pieces up. So I'm going to use my Dixie Belle Barn Red to paint one of these, and I'm going to make sure that I'm painting the entire thing, the front, the sides, the back. All of it is going to be painted in this red color. And then for your other block, you're going to take your Bunker Hill blue and do the exact same thing. You're going to paint this entire square wooden piece. Once those are all painted and dry, I'm going to take some washi tape and I'm going to use that to make some stripes on my red piece. So I just use a piece of washi tape as a spacer in between each piece. It wasn't completely even at the bottom, but it doesn't bother me. So I'm just going to space out all of those strips of washi tape, and I'm going to take my Waverly chalk paint in white and just go over those spaces, giving it some nice white stripes. I did have a little bit of bleeding towards the end, but that's okay. I just went over it with a really small paintbrush and got that white covered up with some red. Next, I'm going to take one of these laser cut stars, again, that I cut out from my laser machine, and I'm going to use my Waverly chalk paint in white. And then before I glue that down, I'm going to take some sandpaper and I'm going to rough each of these blocks up quite a bit on all of the edges, making sure that I'm focusing on the corners. I wanted this to look rough and rustic and, distressed. the way that I enjoy doing that. You can skip this step if you don't want it to look distressed, but I'm just going to do that on both of my squares and just give it a good roughen up. And then I'm going to take some hot glue that star right to the middle of that blue square. And that's it for this DIY. This looks really cute on a shelf sitting next to each other. You could have it next to your tray, but I think this one is a really easy and fun one to do. For this DIY, I'm going to take this Hello Summer Chalk Couture transfer. I believe this is from a past Club Couture month. And I'm going to use the Hello Summer portion of it with some chalk paste. I believe this is the Sunset Drive chalk paste. I could be completely wrong, but I'm pretty sure that that's what this is. And then I'm just going to use my squeegee and squeegee on my chalk paste. Now this is kind of going over one of those grooves, so I just made sure not to get the chalk paste in that so it wasn't just completely filled up with chalk paste. So I made sure to steer clear of that, added my chalk paste, and then removed my transfer. And then once that is done, I'm going to take this little wooden truck that I found from Walmart. It was $5. I removed the hanger from the back, and then I also removed the white flowers. I wanted some flowers with a little bit more color. I just wanted this to be a bit brighter. So I just removed those white flowers, and then I have these yellow flowers. I believe this came from Michael's as well. And I just cut some pieces off and then stuck it back down in the back of that truck. And then all you're going to do after that is put some hot glue on the back of the truck, glue it to your sign. The sign I got from the Target dollar spot, and I want to say it was $3 or $5. And that's all you're going to do for this DIY. This was really, really easy, and I think this sign turned out super cute. So I'm going to grab this sign that I picked up from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to remove the inside of it so you can see it just is this little cardboard piece. And I'm going to wrap this in that fabric. So all I did was lay it down and I just kind of eyeballed it. I just cut around it. I knew that I would need to cut it a little bit more. And I'm going to iron it all out with my Cricut Easy Press. You can use an iron, but this is what I had in my craft room. And then I'm going to start by hot gluing the sides down to that cardboard insert. I will cut the corners to make sure that there isn't a ton of material just bunching up. I wanted to make sure that it was still going to fit nice and snug down in the frame. So I'll just go through and hot glue each side, and I made sure to pull the sides tight so that everything was nice and smooth. And then for the vinyl, all I did was go onto my Cricut Design Space. I clicked on images and I typed in lemons. I found a picture that I thought was really cute and I inserted that into my canvas. And then I made it yellow just so that I could get a feel for what it was going to look like. And then I sized it to the size of my frame. I clicked make it and I cut that out with this really cute gold glitter vinyl. I really love that Cricut can cut over 100 different materials, so really the possibilities are endless. Materials like vinyl, craft foam, corrugated cardboard, leather, canvas. I mean, it goes on and on. So every project can be completely different. And you don't even need a computer to do this. You can also do this on your smartphone. So if you've got a smartphone, you can use a Cricut. Now I'm going to take this iron on. I'm going to lay it down on my fabric just where I want it. I put a piece of Teflon sheet in between. I am going to set my easy press to 320, and then I did do about 30 seconds. You can change the time on here. I just had forgot to. I will peel that carrier sheet off, and then there you go. Super, super easy. All I'm going to do is insert it back into my frame. I'll flip it over and add hot glue so that the sign is attached back to the frame. You could always cover up the back if you want so that you didn't see the messy back, but that's all you have to do for this DIY, and I love it. So for this one, I am going to go into my Cricut Design Space. I'm going to type in the word sunflower, and I just went through and looked through all the pictures until I found one that I liked. I thought this one with the home sweet home was so pretty, and I know just looking at this, it looks a little intimidating, but let me tell you, this is so easy, especially with the trick that I'm going to show you. So I'm just going to cut this out onto some gold vinyl, and then I'll take this sign that I got from Target Dollar Spot. I only paid $3 for this. I'm going to tape around the sides so that those stay nice and black, and then I'll take my Waverly chalk paint in white to paint the entire backing because I did want to cover up those words that said home sweet home, and I did have to do about 2 coats for this one as well. And then I'm going to take that vinyl and I'm going to start weeding it. Now the trick for this, obviously there is quite a bit of weeding that you're going to have to do, and for me personally, I really like weeding. I like seeing the whole picture all come together. I think the trickiest part is going to be the sunflower itself, and what you can do to quickly weed the middle portion of that sunflower with all those little circles is I'm going to take some painter's tape and I'm going to wrap it around my finger, and then I'm going to press on the middle of that vinyl where all the little dots and circles were cut out, and it is going to pick up all of those pieces that need to be removed. So instead of having to go through and individually weed each piece, you can do that and pick up all of your little pieces that you couldn't get off otherwise. It works for me every time. Occasionally I have to go back in with a couple more pieces with my weeding tool, but the tape works perfectly for these intricate cuts. I really like this. It's something that looks intimidating, but really this took me maybe 10 minutes to completely weed out. And then I'm just going to lay this down onto my sign. I will burnish it with my little scraper tool, remove the transfer tape, and then that is it for this DIY for $3 and then some cents for the cost of the vinyl. I think that it is absolutely gorgeous and I love it for my home for summer. And that's it for today's video. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what your favorite project was in the comments down below. These are some of my all-time favorite DIYs that I've done in the past. So many patriotic ones and summer ones. But I can't wait to bring you some brand new patriotic decor DIYs in this coming week. I hope that you guys will stick around, subscribe so that you can see that video. Again, give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.